Shalom. Call Halayim La Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rahakwadash. Brakatah Yahweh, Brakatah Yahweh Shai, Brakatah Hakwadash Bahasham Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rahakwadash. Shalom and double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elder bishops and the elders in the Akim and the Akwath of the hopeful elect. Shalom. Just want to go into a quick video today in the spirit. Today is July 4th. It's the ID4, as it's also known, right? Independence Day. So the spirit, led me to go ahead and do a lesson just touching on that again. Going into just real quick about this country, the title of the lesson is Independence Day is almost up, because the Most High, he gives kingdoms, heathen rulerships, a certain period of time, and we know by the prophecies that this place is on its way out, and we know just based off of the wages of sin is death, and we know that wickedness is only for a moment, and it's not forever, right? But they think that their houses will continue forever, but it's actually going to end because wickedness is only for a moment. We'll start here. Psalms 49 and 11. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. And so we see that, they think that, they ride around with their flags on their trucks. You've probably seen it over wherever you're at, right? In whatever city and state you're in. They proudly have the United States, the USA flag on their vehicle, and it's flowing in the wind as they're driving, right? They're so proud of this country. Even have in Texas, even have Confederate flags in particular areas, right, as well. And Texas flags and Confederate flags, But that USA flag is even worse than the Confederate flag, because the Confederate flag is only symbolic with the South. But the United States, the USA flag is symbolic with the whole entire country, that has far more bloodshed under that flag than the Confederate flag. But people are triggered. How people are uneducated, they uneducated in it and don't look at it with proper perspective. And they're more offended with the Confederate flag than the than the USA flag, when the USA flag is 10 times worse than the Confederate flag, because underneath that USA flag, they've not only destroyed the Israelites, so-called Blacks, Latinos, Native American Indians, but also have spilled the blood of all the heathen nations, and destroying them, and putting them into subjection, right, through the United Nations, and ruling over them with their ways, and forcing the dollar upon all nations. And if they don't, and any nation that doesn't comply with their dollar bill, the USD, then they do what? Create a narrative that the ruler is so evil and oppressive to their people, and then find a way and say that they're terrorists, and go in and destroy and kill those leaders, right? That's the MO of the wicked. So, but Independence Day is almost up. So we'll go ahead and grab some precepts. Let's see. Daniel, the book of Daniel, book of the prophet Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and that was by wars. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. So what's this talking about? So these horns, it was Great Britain, France, and Spain. They settled over here, right? They colonized parts of the Americas. Spain, with first coming over here with Columbus, when he quote unquote discovered land which was already occupied, which was already discovered, right? So Columbus, he didn't get over to the Americas. He got to the islands over there, the Caribbean islands. He came across Ephraim, the so-called Puerto Ricans, and it's the northern the island tribe. You know, not the island tribes, but the tribes that was on the islands over there. And so they call like Hispaniola, the island of Hispaniola and stuff. And so he conquered those islands over there, and then the Britain and them they got deeper, and different waves of Edomites came after that, and it was the great rush to the fourth part of the earth, which is the Western Hemisphere, for all the Edomites to try to take their stake and claims of different parts of the Americas. So it was mainly Britain, Great Britain. The main three horns was Great Britain, France, and Spain, and then America had that little horn that came up because out of one of those horns, which was Great Britain, came up America because it was first the 13 colonies, right? Over here in the Americas, the 13 colonies in the District of Columbia. They had their roots here, and not the entire Americas, but in different parts. They further spread more and more after they got established over here, after they truly colonized it, right? But then they had the Boston Tea Party, where they threw the tea in the river, in the ocean or whatever, right? The Boston Tea Party, they were tired of being taxed by Britain, and they had no representation. That's why they said no taxation without representation. What does that mean? The Britain had their people go. They basically had they basically just had puppet rulers over here, but the main orders came down from the Britons, from the over there, the British over there, and over there in Europe area, right? And then America, the future Americans, rulers over here, they were basically just puppet, leaders, just doing whatever the British was telling them to do over here. They got tired of getting taxed over here as well, and so they rebelled against them, and that was the American Revolutionary War, where they officially had broke off from the Brits, and became independent that way. But they also had, before they had the French and Indian War, which was basically the natives, the Northern Kingdom helped those British representatives over here, leaders, fight the French to to uproot the French from over here in the areas that they had controlled. And then after that was the American Revolutionary War, where they officially gained their quote unquote independence on July 4th, 1776. And then also a little later had the Spanish American War, where that third horn was plucked up officially, and the control that they had in America took control of all this landmass over here. So that's what those three horns were: France, Great Britain, and Spain. And then that little horn came out of that horn of Great Britain, and then defected, or broke away from that horn, and gained their independence. So basically, Independence Day came out of these three horns getting plucked up. In the process of the three horns getting plucked up by that little horn, they Independence Day is one of the things that came out of it, right? So just want to touch on that, and then let's see, drop down to verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, because they adopted the Gregorian calendar, and they changed because the dates is actually 12 months and 30 days for every month, but Esau has changed. So-called white man has changed the dates, has changed the course of the months. It's like a 30, because every other month is 30 days, and then 31 days, and then 28 days in February. And then every fourth year have a leap year. They add a year, add a day to February, it's just pure madness. That's the confusing the confusing manner of the K beast, right? Of Esau. So he changed his times and laws that way. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. So that time and times mean a year. And then the dividing of the time going into a half a year. So that's 2.5 years. So that actually means um, 250 years. So each year is 100 years. And then half of 100 years is 50. So 250 years. So when you get this, see times right here, the times and laws, see times going into the dates. So that's a different word. That's a different word. Slack it. Let me go make sure. Okay. So go back down to see change times and laws right there. And the word for times is zaman, right? Right there. And then when you go to time down here, until a time and times and the dividing of times, it's the same word all three times. I done and times I done. And dividing of the time, done. It's the same word. See, it's different from up here. The time, these times are two different times. The times up here is the calendar, and then the time down here is the years. So he was given, so the saints, the Israelites, were given into his hand, into the hand of Esau. So when you get that word time right here, let's see, go back. The word time, I done right there. You see, time, year. So that show you right there, until a year and a dividing of the year. A year, and then half a year. So you see? So that's what that is. That's going into a year. That's what that times mean. So verse 25 again, and he shall speak great words against the Most High. See, that's that blasphemy and pride and profanity that the so-called white man has. He's always blaspheming the Heavenly Father, right? And shall wear out the saints of the Most High. So who the saints of the Most High? The Israelites, so-called blacks, Latinos, Native American Indians. And so, and to think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand. Who is that? Who should be given into his hand? Into whose hand? The Israelites will be given into the Edomites' hand. Until a time, until a year, and the dividing of year. So that's 250 years. So when you look at that time frame, so when we jumped up to verse 8 up there, right? Speaking about the three horns was plucked up by that little horn, right? America plucked up those three horns. And so Independence Day in 1776, July 4th. So today is so 1776. So fast forward 249 years. So right now it's officially 249 years. And the way he changes the times and laws, give or take a little, probably a little more than that. So the Most High deals with ballpark time. He gives the prophecies. We don't know the exact time, but the Most High gave us a pretty pinpoint time frame right here, 250 years. So 250 years from 1776 is 2026. So officially one more year coming up here. It's going to be pretty much that time frame, right? And so, and with all the extra days that Esau has thrown in there, extending, having 31-day months, and then the leap year month, right? I mean, the leap year day as well, right? Extra day, so could be looking already pretty much at 250. So that's why you see also and just many layers of understanding the prophecies, right? So this is another prophecy right here that shows the ballpark time frame of the demise of that little horn. aka America. So Independence Day right here is almost up because this is next year. Well, technically, from the date from the years 1776 to 2026 is that's 250. That's the total encompassing time of time and times and the dividing of the time, right? Of time and the spirit. So we're close. We don't know the exact time, like the Messiah said, no man know, only the Heavenly Father in heaven, right? So we're just getting ourselves together, right? And cleaning our vessels, our getting these demons off of us, rejecting that old man, right? Getting our house in order to the best of our abilities and repenting, praying for forgiveness because that time is real close of the return of Yahushua, the return of Yahushua. So let's see. Further proof of that time, let's get Daniel 4 and verse 32. And they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times shall pass over thee, until thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. Seeing that the key I want to get is that 7 times shall pass over thee. So it's that same word that we just read in Daniel 7 and 25. 7 times shall pass over thee. See, and 7 times right here shall pass over thee. And it's that same idon word, right? Let's go ahead and click it. See, year. So 7 years. So Nebuchadnezzar, this is going to Nebuchadnezzar when the Most High turned him into a beast with feathers of birds and claws like birds. The Most High turned him into an animal because he got proud, you know. In verse 30 it started, we'll just get that real quick. Verse 30, the king spake and said, it is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom of my, that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty. Verse 31, while the word was in the king's mouth, while he was running his mouth, being proud and blasphemous, acting like he established Babylon off his own strength, right? While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven. That's a terrifying thing. Saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee. So the Most High immediately judged him in the midst of his speech, in the midst of his proud speech, saying that he got the kingdom of Babylon and got established by his own strength and might, right? And the beauty of it was his own will. And the Most High cut him off in the middle of his wicked, proud, profane speech, and told him that the kingdom is departed from him. And so, boom, in verse 32, we read that the Most High said he going to turn into an animal, and 7 times going to pass over him. So he's going to live like that as a beast for 7 years. So that's what that times mean. It means a year. And then he transformed back from a beast back to himself, and his reason came back within him as if you continue, you can read the whole thing going down, and he went back to Babylon, and that's very, very, very miraculous, right? So so that's what that means. So that time's going into it means a year. So a time and dividing of the time, that's 250 years. And so we're real close. So Independence Day is almost up. Let's see. But these citizens are not free. They have to have a passport to go if they want to travel anywhere. We should be able to just travel freely, right? That shows you that these people are not free, and that we're not free. The government, they're free. Those that are the wicked elites that are tied in closely to the the shadow government, the 13 families, and that are directly linked to Satan, right? That directly rule the earth with Satan. If you're not really heavily tied in, did abominable things to be on their good side, you won't be free to roam around as to do what you want. But wickedness can pass them like a chain, though, because they're not free, because that wickedness is bound in them, and they have their short time to do whatever, in wickedness, but will be judged. So Psalms 5 and verse 1. Give ear to my word. That's to the chief musician upon Nehiloth, a psalm of David. Excuse me. Okay. Give ear to my words, O Lord Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai. Consider my meditation. Everything's in the name of Yahweh Shai these days, right? That's why we say that. Consider my meditation. So what's our meditation? It's supposed to be upon the Heavenly Father's words, His law, statutes, and commandments. Verse 2. Hearken unto the voice of my cry, my King, and my power, for unto thee will I pray. So verse 3. My voice shalt thou hear in the morning, O Lord Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai. In the morning will I direct my prayer unto thee, and will look up. So we face the east, and that's our morning routine. Wake up and pray unto the Heavenly Father every morning, and crying and sighing, and praying for the Most High to forgive us and have mercy upon us, when He send down His judgment and send Yahweh Shai to redeem the elect, found written in the book of life. Verse, hoping that we are part of that number. Verse 4, for thou art not a power that hath pleasure in wickedness. And we know that America is the greatest wicked nation in the history of mankind. Neither shall evil dwell with thee. So the Most High not dealing with these people. They think that that this country, they say God bless America and all of that, Their God is, G-O-D is acronym, guns, oil, and drugs, right? The pharmaceutical company, the guns, the military, the oil, that's what their US dollar currency is backed by the oil, right? That's the foundational pillars of this country, basically. And chiefly, having the jewels of the Most High, the Israelites, in captivity. So whatever heathen nation have the Israelites in captivity, they are the world superpower. So evil will not dwell with the Most High power of Yahweh. Verse 5, the foolish shall not stand in thy sight. Thou hatest all workers of iniquity. So that's a side note, a cut to Christianity that foolishly say that the Most High hates the sin and not the sinner. Well, those that commit in sin, iniquity, they're workers of it. The Most High hate them. A sinner is not going to be able to stand in the Most High sight because they're going to be blown away with the thermonuclear missiles of the lake of fire going to destroy them. So Micah chapter 2 and verse 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds, and that's the workers of iniquity, the shadow government, the 13 families that rule behind the scenes, beginning with the FDR, the what's that? The Federal Reserve Bank, the international bankers, their headquarters is over in London, over in Europe. Those little hats, the Rockefellers and Rothschilds, beginning with them. Let's see. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hands. See, they do. See, when the morning, it says when the morning is light, meaning that they do what? These midnight councils, because that's their strength, the night, the darkness, and they have these night councils and evil councils in the night. That's around 3 to 4 a.m. is the most demonic vibration of the night, so. And then they practice all of these think tank and devise all these plans and orchestrate it, and then in the daytime they go ahead and implement it and put it forth after they all night devise these plans and brainstorm together, putting their wicked brains together under Satan. Verse 2. They covet fields, and they take them by violence, and houses, and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. That's what they do. They covet fields. That's how those three horns got rooted here in the Americas. And then the little horn plucked them up, and took over. They covered fields, and then they also colonized the entire earth. Africa, especially Africa. They colonized that and ruling over Ham, the Hamites, so-called Africans. And which are not Israelites. They're the children of Ham, and colonized the entire earth. And they take people's houses, and they oppress the people's houses, and they take away their heritage, especially the Israelites. Chiefly, they had to do that first, and then conquered everyone else as well. The Samoans, the Pacific Islanders, the Hawaiians, and the Filipinos, and all of them, right? The Asians, all throughout. The children of Japheth. So he conquered the children of all the children. The children of Japheth, Shem, Japheth, and Ham. See, verse 3. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua, behold, against this family do I devise an evil. So the workers of iniquity, the families, beginning with the 13 families that work these evils, the shadow government, the Illuminati so-called, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. So that haughtily meaning with that high spirit, that lofty spirit, right? That pride. So Psalms 5 and 6. Thou shalt destroy them that speak leasing, and that word leasing means lies and falsehoods, deceit, everything, all lies. A lie, untruth, falsehood, a deceptive thing. We know that's the devil the Bible speaks of, deceitful, right? Thou shalt destroy them that speak falsehoods and lies. The Lord Yahweh will abhor the bloody and deceitful man. See, deceitful. The deceiver the Bible speaks of. Because everything, that they're lying, so-called white people, because how their mouth is moving. Everything they speak is lies and all is falsehoods. Because when they speak from a perspective of falsehoods, everything's going to be a lie, because their whole existence is polluted with just trickery and deceit and guile. And that reminds me of a Street Fighter character. It's a video game. Different fighters is represented throughout the four corners of the earth, in Asia, throughout Asia, Africa, Europe, in the Americas. And one of the fighters that's a representation of the USA, his name is Guile. That should show you who Esau is. Guile. Deceit. Yes, the scripture say that, and there was no guile, and I believe, in Yahushua's mouth, when he spoke just pure truth. And then also the followers of Yahushua is going to be that way as well, and it's going to be found no guile as well. But Esau, he glorifies it, right? Name his fighting character is Guile. It's a so-called white boy, with blonde hair, and an Air Force vet, an Air Force soldier. That's what Esau is. Let's see. I'm now going to Romans chapter 13 and verse 12. The night is far spent. So that's that night. The workers of iniquity, they devise iniquity upon their beds in the middle of the night, having these think tanks, these nighttime councils. And that's wickedness. And this country is, America is nighttime, So America is far spent. The night is far spent. The day is at hand. And what's that light? The light of the Lord, Yahweh, is returning. His right arm, Yahushua. The day is at hand. That's that bright morning star, Revelations 22 and 16. The day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness. And that's the works of America, Babylon the Great, the sin, right? And let us put on the armor of light. So that's that new man, putting on Yahushua, right? And putting on as the elect. Verse 13, let us walk honestly as in the day, because we're going to have that heart of flesh in the day, in the kingdom of heaven. Let us walk honestly as in the day, not in rioting and drunkenness, not in chambering and wantonness, not in strife and envying. So you don't envy and covet your neighbor like Esau, the so-called white man, does. He covets fields and take them by violence, right? So rioting meaning living, like they say, that phrase that they say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, right? Live as the Romans live. So that's that rioting and drunkenness. They love going to bars and clubs and, parties and getting crazy, drunk and living in riotous and chambering. And that's going into, whoredom, whoremongering and whores. Men whoremongers, going from woman to woman and not keeping that, because when you lay with a woman, that's officially your wife. But then they turn those women to whores by, they having one night stands and just one off times. And it is a filthy place. And so we walking honestly, not living like that. In verse 11, and that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. Because Independence Day is almost up, and that's that night is far spent. And this is a real sad. The spirit of mirth is died a whole lot in this place. As you can see around the country, everyone that was in the house of mirth and the house of joy and celebration, right? They're now starting to complaining of an ungodly father, and crying and sighing, and these holidays is getting more, the strength of the spirit of it is getting weaker and weaker. It's dimming more and more because that night is far spent, and they come to the realization that this place is not what they thought it was. The illusion, the spell that was casted on them is now crashing down. We thank the Lord for blessing us to see it way before, awaken us to the truth, to see it way before it's painfully obvious, So I thank Yahweh Basham, Yahweh Shai for that. So with that being said, hope the video was edifying. The order to the Hakodash Basham, Yahweh Shai for the video. Until next video, I say, Shalom.